just unbelievable. I was just shocked.
It's just one of those things that, you know, it happens that you remember or where you were.
And I was coming out of the grocery store when I got the word. I remember like a hush just fell over everything. And I was 5 at the time, and what fascinated me was the black stallion. And I was just in love with horses, and I just remember watching that stallion walking down the street. It had the saddle on, but it was a riderless black horse.
It's just a sad time. Really were.
It was a crime that personally touched the nation. The murder of a president, in a case that some believe still isn't solved. Before the president was even buried, the only suspect in the assassination was also murdered, live on TV, like a public execution. The question that still lingers nearly 30 years later, was the real assassin captured, or was the nation cheated out of the truth?
We are asking you to return a verdict in this case against Lee Harvey Oswald of guilty of murder in the first degree.
The demand for justice is still so strong that the American Bar Association held a trial with some of the best lawyers in the country 29 years later.
Nobody has to do experiments to show that if you get hit with a high-powered bullet from 30 yards away, this way, your head's going to go that way.
The jury's consensus reflected the public consensus. Polls show 3 out of 4 Americans don't believe in the government's findings, and this trial ended in a hung jury.
Exhibit 1 was an envelope containing a paraffin cast of the right side of the face of Lee Oswald. He had not fired a rifle that day.
There seems to be constant curiosity for new information, and conspiracy authors like Jim Mars are still working like detectives on an unsolved murder case.
Everybody loves a good mystery, and this is a good mystery. And even more so, it's a real mystery, and even more so, this mystery has impacted on each and every one of us.
There is no line of sight from the middle of the street to the 6th floor window at this particular point, and as we can see from Kennedy's hand clutching at his throat, that he's already been struck by a bullet.
Between private researchers like Mars and extensive government probes, the Kennedy assassination is the most investigated crime of the 20th century. There were hundreds of witnesses and dozens of pictures, yet the proof seems inconclusive.
His coat, his shirt, or in the National Archives shows a bullet hole in the middle of the back.
The National Archives store the most obvious evidence a murder investigator might want to see. The rifle police said killed the president, the bullet, the diary and other belongings of the prime suspect, the bloody shirt the president had on when he was assassinated. But these pieces of evidence have failed to resolve the public skepticism that the case is really solved. For example, there are witnesses like Ed Hoffman, who was deaf and mute. He took his story to the FBI in the mid-70s, but only private researchers like Larry Howard believed him.
He saw the man at the fence smoking, he thought, okay?
Hoffman had been standing 200 yards away. He didn't realize anything had happened when the shots were fired.
And then he looks back and realizes that this man shot. And then when he looks back, he sees the man running with a gun.
Hoffman says the gunman handed off the rifle to a man dressed in a railroad uniform near the switch box. Hoffman's information is in the Dallas FBI office where Ferris Rookstool works.
I couldn't comment on that because that hasn't been released as far as the information about Mr. Hoffman. I'm aware of Mr. Hoffman.
But he wouldn't say if that office will still pursue leads. The case was officially closed in 1988.
So we have no credible information to suggest that any gunshots were fired from any other direction other from the southeast corner of the School Depository.
Rookstool was a historical consultant for the museum that preserves the site official investigators have always identified as the assassin's firing point.
It makes it a great location. I often say to people that had Oswald not been a good shot, you could have thrown the rifle out the window and hit President Kennedy in the head. What's to state that Oswald...
Rookstool used to personally believe Kennedy's assassination was a conspiracy. 9 years ago, he joined the FBI and got a chance to examine boxes full of secret files. Enough records to fill up the boxes around the assassin's corner.
When the files are released, the public, I will feel very confident, if they choose to read the materials as they're released, will hopefully draw the conclusion that the FBI did an outstanding investigation.
Public researchers will soon get that chance. New records, just unsealed, are being released at the National Archives. The president signed a law opening the Kennedy files in late October. Researchers like Mars hope unsealed records will offer new clues, but he's doubtful.
Number one, they've had 30 years to cull those files, and I can assure you that anything that's too incriminating is long since out of here.
President Kennedy's assassination intrigues us 30 years after his death. Never had so many people witnessed a murder, and yet the crime remains so mysterious. Maybe we'll never know the truth.
I think it's about cover-up, in my opinion.
I just think Lee Harvey Oswald was just a scapegoat.
This was not solved. It was not answered to our satisfaction, so we want something done about it. And I think it's about time, too.